You're listening to Best Forevers, a podcast for kindred spirits. A podcast that encourages you to love more on your friends and to further consider the issues that plague friendships. I'm Alysa Lucas, and I think my interest in friendship has led me to at least try to make friends wherever and whenever I go. So I'm pretty much the Shakira of friendship. Whenever, wherever. Okay, I'll stop singing. Whether it be at camp, school, ballet, to college, graduate school, workplace, and even with podcasting now, maybe adopting introverts, I've always been about making friends. But frankly, making friends can be really hard. And even when it's something that I might actively do, I still might have a hard time doing it. So then add on a global pandemic and we may be reaching epic difficulty levels. So in this episode, I want to talk about making friends. But specifically, I want to ask the question, are you ready for friendship? This might seem like a silly question, but I do believe there are some topics of consideration and ways that we can prepare to help us put ourselves out there to make friends. So we're going to talk about the 4 ways to assess whether or not you're ready for friendship. So first, do you have the skills needed to make friends? I think this is the first way to assess if you're ready for friendship, and that it can be broken down by age. To begin, think about this if you're a parent. Are your kids developing the skills needed to make friends? Next, if you're a young person, are you practicing the skills needed to make friends? And then finally, if you're a full-fledged adult, do you need to add or dust off some of the skills needed to make friends? I like to say I came out of my mom's womb looking for friends, but A, it doesn't mean everyone does that or is like me, and B, that we all automatically, me included, have the skills that we might need for interactions and for building friendships. According to the Understood Organization's webpage, Lexi Wright outlines 4 skills kids should have when making friends, including the first one is starting conversations. For example, does your child understand what topics would be appropriate to discuss with others? And I know you're probably thinking, there's some adults that don't know what's appropriate. And so this is where I say these skills will be important later in life as well. I don't know why I'm whispering. Whisper podcasting, it's a new thing. Check it out. Or it might just be a way to help people fall asleep. So if you want to make friends and fall asleep, this episode is definitely for you. Okay, Lexi Wright. The second skill she said kids should have is interpreting social situations. So that's the idea of when your kid is in a social interaction, are they able to figure out what is going on or what the meaning of the interaction is? Are they able to read nonverbal cues? Are they able to size up what the social interaction is? The third skill would be interacting positively. Is your child able to join in with a conversation without interrupting or hurting other people's feelings? And then finally, listening to others. Can your child focus on and understand what is being said to them during a conversation? As a parent, you might think about these 4 areas, and there might be others where you can determine whether or not your child is learning those skills, or are there ways that they could be learning it that you just haven't maybe put them in a class, or think about talking to their teacher when they've been in class or interacting with their classmates on Zoom, or what other ways they were doing school during the pandemic this past spring. Additionally, Sunshine Parenting talks about 10 skills kids should have for friendship development, such as asking questions, inviting others, joining others, sharing, being happy for friends' victories, coping with conflict and negative emotions, empathy, kindness, and more. Certainly, kids are learning as they age, develop, and experience various situations, but these skills often carry through to social interactions and friendships well beyond childhood. Young people who are a little bit older, like in high school, may find themselves experiencing new friendships where they can practice these skills, but also they may find themselves being challenged by new conflicts, new emotions, and other times some what we might call yucky experiences like envy and social comparison. Things that we all experience, but maybe they don't know what they should do in those situations. And it might be the first time they've experienced it. So at this time, young people might be learning more about themselves, what kind of friend they are and want to be, and looking for the friends they want to have in their lives. Now, this might not be resolved by the time you're 15 or 21, but through friendships and social interactions, practicing and honing friendship skills can help us achieve our friendship goals. And as you age to adulthood, you may hope friends will drop in your laps like they did when you were kids, right? It's just like, hello, I'm playing with the neighbor kid during summer and I have like built-in friends. That's not how it typically works for adults. I think we may expect friendships as adults without considering a host of things like differences in life goals and timelines that can make friendships as adults more difficult. And at the very least, we have to consider that our friendship skills as adult may be a little bit rusty and dusty. We might have to dust them off, right? And then we might settle for thinking that we're unable to make friends and find ourselves in a cycle of loneliness. And if you'd like to understand more about loneliness, recently I've started the Understanding Loneliness series, and there are 2 episodes out that go over related topics. But according to a 2019 Marissa Franco article from Psychology Today, adults may wish to reflect on the following skills when making friends, and Dr. Franco highlights 5. The first one is initiative. The author talks about embracing, quote, aggressively friending, because friendships don't always just happen. But I think we can think about friendships maybe on a spectrum from waiting for friends to come to us all the way to the flip side of maybe being too aggressive in making friends. So let's find somewhere in the middle in between where we can take some degree of responsibility over making friendships. Dr. Franco says taking the initiative includes inviting a coworker out to coffee or introducing yourself at an event. So it's taking the initiative, it's embracing the idea that you need to get yourself out there and talk to people and try to make friendships yourself. Certainly, COVID has changed our way of getting together, but even inviting a coworker to a Zoom coffee chat is a way to continue to take the initiative now as our world is changing. The second skill that Marissa Franco talks about is affirmation. I talk about this one in my interpersonal classes all the time. Simply, we like people who like us. So affirmation is about communicating in a way that shows interest for friendship and for that particular person as a friend. For example, do you show excitement when greeting and meeting new folks? Do you compliment other people? Do you let others know when you're thinking of them? I mean, heck, sending a meme to a friend and saying, I'm thinking about you right now, could go a long way. And this last question was also mentioned in the article. And I think this could mean a lot while showing interest. Do you let people know they helped you see something in a new way? That could be something, a particular topic that you're learning about or reading about in the news. It could be you're doing book club, and so thinking about a character in a new way. Whatever it could be, that could say, what you've said to me, I've taken in, I've thought about it, and integrated into my own thinking. And I think that is a great way to show that you're interested in friendship. Security. Okay, developing friends is hard, and it opens yourself up to rejection like in any other types of relationships. So the question becomes, are you ready for that rejection? Or are you ready to assess what might not actually be a rejection? For example, if you don't get a response to a text right away, what's the reason for that? It may be important to be skillful in making considerations about why you haven't received it back. It probably has nothing to do with you, but rather someone's bad day, busy schedule, or emergency, or a quasi-emergency that's keeping them from responding. So the article talks about us having this internal dialogue about the reasons why people might not be inviting us, or might not be responding to us, or not picking up our call. And a lot of times that internal dialogue isn't accurate. But unless someone explicitly says they cannot or do not want to be friends, it might be better to give them the benefit of a doubt of having positive intent. But, okay, I get it. If you text them several times a week for a month or 2 months and you're not getting a response, okay, it might be time to invest in others. The next skill that Dr. Franco believes adults should have when making friends is persistence. Basically, we need to adopt a mindset that making friends takes time. It's not instant, and it's not just meeting the people. It's showing up, it's staying optimistic, it's keeping going when things don't work out, it's checking in with people, and it's also about maintaining those friendships as well. Sometimes I think that in general in our world that we expect friends that they'll always be there once they're become a friend. And I think we have to consider that these relationships take investment like any other. I don't like the phrase that friendships take work because it makes it seem like, like a chore, like it's something people don't want to do. Instead, I think it's perhaps better to use language such as committing or investing, because then it's thinking about it in a long term and in a more positive view versus like, ugh, I have to go to work today. Work? Yeah, I have to go be friends today. No, friendship should be enjoyable. It's not always, but relationships should be meaningful and exciting and fun and challenging, but it shouldn't be like, ugh, it's gross. I hate relationships. Right? And then finally, reaching out is a skill adults could have. You want to take that friendship responsibility and follow up with friends and invitations. And soon, as the article talks about, it will become more reciprocal. So you might find yourself being the one that reaches out more at the beginning because you're taking responsibility for making friendships. And then you'll start to see as the relationship grows, there might be more give and take, more reciprocity. The author says, quote, "We have the power to create the social world we want for ourselves, and we are prepared to be intentional about doing so," end quote. I love this idea. It's learning the skills, it's using the skills, it's practicing the skills, and improving the skills when making friends. I mean, if you're listening now and think, hey, I'm good with initiating friendship, but I'm not so good with following up, well, then you can take that awareness and you can translate it into action by working on following up with people. And so the idea is like, let's do this friendship thing, y'all. Let's make it happen, right? Take that control. You have the power. So that's the first way to assess if you're ready for friendship is, do you feel like you have the skills? Maybe there's something that you want to work on or you want to learn more about or to practice, but that might sort of be a checklist where you can be like, I feel ready. I feel like I have the skills. Let's move on to the next question, right? And that is the second way to assess whether or not you're ready for friendship is, are you open to friendship? Okay. So the first one's about having skills, which puts us in an active mode and thinking about taking control of our social world. And this way is about being open to it all. And this means, are you able to recognize someone trying to become friends with you? Do you notice the skill in other people? Or perhaps at the most mundane and opportune times, are you able to turn that into friendship or make friendship happen if you so want to? For example, I love this friendship meeting from my friend Ellen. Ellen writes, "Scene. Just moved to Ohio for partner's new job. New faculty dinner, knew no one. Huge, visibly, laughably pregnant, hobbling slowly towards a table to sit down because crossing the street had left me winded. Up walks who I assumed was another new faculty member, who takes one look at me and says, 'Hi. Oh, are you pregnant?' To which I jokingly respond, 'Nope, just fat.' He laughs loud enough that people turn and look at us, and then he said, 'I know where I'm sitting for dinner.' We've been friends now for exactly 9 years. Easy to remember because he held baby Charlie the day he was born, the only visitor we had in the hospital." So here she is, like, I don't know anyone. And then someone just comes up and then made a joke, and then they sat together at dinner, right? So making something out of the smallest moment can turn into friendship. Like my former student, Dave, who wrote this friendship story. Quote, "When I was going to X university, that is not mine currently, we had a weekly bomb threat at the dorm. I was staying in my first semester on campus. One day I was coming back from getting pizza and my dorm was evacuated. So I went into the building next door and I sat down by this guy playing video games. He hooked up a second controller and I shared my pizza and we were friends until he graduated and I transferred." So here it's, well, can't go back in my dorm. Guess I might as well go over here. Hey, while I eat pizza, I might as well watch video games. Guy says, here's a controller. Hey, here's some pizza. Did we just become friends? Yes, we did. I also really like this story from Sarah, who I went to graduate school. She says, "I made friends in crazy ways, but one was answering a Craigslist ad for a room in a house. The girl who showed me the room and I chatted for such a long time, we exchanged numbers and hung out later. Although she didn't move in. In 2014, we went on a girls' trip to Morocco. She's probably the most outgoing person I know." So most people might go there and be like, okay, I'm not renting here, and then go home, right? In this case, if you make a connection or something happens in a time you're not thinking about making friends, it might be a moment where you can make friends. So, I mean, I love friendship origin stories, but I love random meetings like this that lead to long-lasting friendship because it showcases that friendships can happen anytime. but that this is not always the case. They don't always fall into our lap. But it also indicates that we do have to take that level of responsibility in following up. So we have to be open in those moments and then know we need to do something. So think about this. They sat at the table for dinner together or sharing pizza or chatting in the house that she didn't end up renting, but steps had to be taken to be able to contact again, right? So Sarah said they exchanged numbers. So something had to happen so that they would indicate to each other that they wanted to see each other again or talk to each other again. So be open to putting those skills to work at a drop of a hat and take the initiative to go beyond one moment or one evening, because that might be one of the greatest friendships that you might have. Which leads us to what I think most people probably think about friendships, and that is, are you actively looking for friendship? This is a third way to assess if you're ready for friendship. Are you actively seeking them out? And if you are actively seeking out friendships, how are you doing it? We certainly need to be creative in times of COVID-19, and I created a thread on Facebook asking my Facebook friends to share stories of how they made friendships. And they provided me a list of examples because I can think of the ways that I made friends. Workplace, graduate school, through other people, cheerleading, the clubs I was in high school and college, meeting people at conferences, pen pals, having Finn. I meet a lot of other dog owners. And then more recently, I started volunteering and have met people that way as well. So those are some of the ways that I've met friends, but I love this idea of everyone sharing their ideas so that we can collectively see the different ways in which people are making friends. So I generated a list based off the Facebook thread, and here are ways that people made friends. They made friends with coworkers through podcast groups on Facebook, adult kickball league, which sounds amazing, volunteering through an online message board, D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, fantasy football, through my kids' schools, through parenting groups. I talked to someone on the phone and then I texted them and asked them to go get drinks, right? Doing a podcast helped people make friends. One of my students said that they did a specific CMU homecoming event, and that's how she met her two best friends. A camping trip, going to the local comic book shop or being part of the comic book scene, making friends through church. I love this one. Surviving bad and stressful jobs together. That'll bond anyone together. You know what I mean? Facebook group for new people in the area. Actually asking people if they want to be friends. And I love this because they not only say that they would go up to someone and say, hey, do you want to be friends? And then they would invite them to do something low key, like going for a walk or doing coffee or something like that. So it doesn't feel very risky. It's not a huge event perhaps, but it's a way just to start determining if you might get along or have things in common. So other people talked about making friends through professional development, attending social justice events, being a teacher, making friends with the kids' parents. So the kids have long graduated, but teachers still friends with parents. Love that. Obviously, Dave's Pizza and Video Game during Bomb Threat. I had another friend talk about going to see an author at a book event and meeting someone there because she went by herself. Another person talked about knowing people through books. One of my friends talked about joining a Reddit for working moms and then the spin-off group on Facebook, which led to someone doing a thread on Snapchats. And it's just one of those things when people activate and actively do something, people will respond because most people might be looking for friends or hoping to make connections with other people around something specifically like working moms. I love this one. During graduate school class, I forced them to be my best friend, which I think is similar to what another one of my Facebook friends calls being adopted by extroverts, and I have done that before. So meeting people through music, through their kids, through book clubs, there's lots of ways to do it, and the list goes on. Local sports leagues, dating apps. When it didn't work out with guys, they remained friends. I love that. Twitter, I made friends with someone because she tweeted about being cheated on. A former graduate assistant. Random people at bars I talked to. A live journal turned into a spin-off group. We didn't know anyone. I went to a neighbor's house for fireworks, joined mom groups, attend events for husband's work, and meet other military wives, making friends on vacation at sporting events, during wrestling pay-per-views, faculty dinners, health-based Facebook groups, Girl Scouts, campus communities and committees, librarian mentors, local sports organization again, Ultimate Frisbee Club, flag football club, babysitting co-op. Now, my mom... This is my mom, the babysitting co-op. She said work, church, and then she also said dream class. She went to a class about dreams, and she's been going out to dinner with ladies from that class for 30 years. I mean, you just never know when a class or, something like that might really make things happen. A great story about meeting someone on a layover, a midnight showing of a movie, rock climbing, sewing. It can go on and on and on, right? Like, that's a lot of things. This is a lot, and I love it because there's very different ways to make friends, and it warms my friendship-loving heart, because if you are someone who attends church, it might be a great way to make friends there. If you're athletic and all the things about flag football and ultimate frisbee, which sounds like fun to watch, but some people like to play those things and participate. That's a great way to make friends, right? But what I love about it is based on interest. And I think this is really critical to friendship, that you're making friends that have similarities, right? Friendship is based on the idea of birds of a feather flock together, but the question becomes, what flock are you looking for? Over the years, I've been asked by folks how to make friends, which similarly reflects when students are looking for speech topics to speak on and the basic public speaking class that I've taught over the years or during the summer. So I want to use that as an example. Last summer, I had a student come to see me about their speech topic. They were doing a speech where they had to inform the audience about a topic in 4 to 6 minutes. And they didn't know what they wanted to speak on, so they came to see me, and I asked a few questions to get them thinking and to see how I might be able to help them. So here are some of the questions that I asked and their answers. Do you have any hobbies? No. What are you into? Nothing. How do you spend your time? I don't do anything. What causes fuel your fire? I can't think of any. What do you want to learn more about? I don't know. Okay. I was not surprised the student was having difficulties finding a speech topic, and I asked some follow-up questions to clarify and okay, is there something that you like or something that you're into? And could the student be nervous about speaking with me? Absolutely. Would answering those questions in a particular way show that they're not cool? Probably. Could they want me to give them a topic to speak on so they wouldn't have to do the work to think about it? Absolutely. But I think as we're figuring ourselves out as young folks, or if we find ourselves feeling lost later in life, whether it's being overworked or focusing on kids or whatever the case might be. So asking these questions may produce the same answers. If you answer these questions like this, then you might not know where to look actively for friendship. If you don't have hobbies, you're not into anything, you don't spend your time doing anything, you don't support any causes, and you don't want to learn anything, then how are you going to make friends? And so let's answer those questions from my point of view. Do you have any hobbies? Yes, I have 2 podcasts, one on friendship and one on true crime. What are you into? TV, true crime, animals, friendship? How do you spend your time? Working, teaching, watching TV, podcasting, walking Finn, chatting with family and friends, and the list goes on and on. What causes fuel your fire? I am particularly passionate about animal rights, and all of the rage inside me comes when someone's been wrongfully convicted. So those are 2 of my main causes. What do you want to learn more about? Crafting, Bonnie and Clyde, how to get Finn to stop barking at neighbors and other dogs when we're walking, so maybe dog obedience. We have to do work on ourselves. We have to know ourselves, and we have to be our own friends so that we can be friends to other people. And even if that student did have an idea and they weren't sharing it, we have to be able to articulate it so that we can find people we want to be friends with, because it has to be What would we talk about? What would you have in common? Answering these questions then means we can look for our people and actively make friends in different ways, like through rock climbing or through music or through finding a place to live like Sarah did, right? But also know what situations you are in or going to be in, because that can also help you look. So let's say you're living with something health related, mental health, physical health, and you join a group, right? Knowing that you're experiencing something, you might want to find other people are experiencing the same thing so that you have someone to lean on and talk to. And so finding an online group, a support group, a Facebook group, or even a live face-to-face group might be a great way. And that is based on your life, right? What you're experiencing. Or it could be circumstances like you're going to be moving. So if you're moving, you can join a Facebook group near your new area, like one of my Facebook friends did, or you can do what my cousin Naomi did when they were moving to Hawaii. So Naomi wrote, quote, "One of my favorite friendship stories is reaching out through a blog before moving to Hawaii and being invited to a mom play date when we visited looking for a house. We became a close-knit group of mom friends for 5 years. I lived there and still to this day, 10 years later," end quote. So one of the things is like reaching out, but I think it's really cool that they responded and had something set up for when they were there temporarily looking for a place to stay, so that when they then moved, they already had some built-in connections. And, I see that a lot in some of the groups that I'm in. So for example, I'm in a Michigan group and people join and talk about, oh, I'm new here. Can you tell me what's going on in the Grand Rapids area or Detroit area? Those sorts of things. And those groups can certainly make people feel more comfortable. And then it's not like every single person on a Facebook group is going to become your best friend, but it's a great way to start making those connections and knowing that when you move somewhere, you might not know a lot of people. So then how do you go about actively seeking out those connections when you know that's going to happen? Which leads us to the fourth way to assess whether or not you're ready for friendship, and that is, are you able to nurture and grow friendship? So you have to be able and willing to maintain those friendships, and this particular way to assess whether or not you're ready for friendship really shines the light on what some of the other ways have highlighted as well, and that is what you do after you meet someone. And here's the thing, you do have to do something, right? There is some level of talking about what's going to happen the next time. It's following up, it's reaching out, it's inviting, it's re-inviting, it's inviting again, it's joining in, it's sharing ideas, it's all of these things. And so a lot of times I think about friendships and metaphorically in terms of a car or a plant. For example, you don't buy a car and then get one oil change the entire time you own it. If you did that, what happens to the car? I know at some point it's going to break down and then probably cost you lots of pain and agony and money, right? Or if you get plants, you don't water them and then see them grow. What happens? You don't water them and then they die, and then you don't really want to try to bring them back to life. You just throw them in the trash. And it's like, if you don't work on a friendship, it's not going to last either, right? So you really have to think about the ongoing communication that is going to help develop the friendship into a closer, high quality one, and one that you can maintain over time, circumstance, and pandemic. So one of my favorite researchers in the field, and I know it's such a nerdy statement to say that I have a favorite researcher, but he's been on the podcast, and that is Dr. Bill Rollins, who is one of the most prolific friendship researchers that exists, but specifically in the area of communication. And so he looks at the 6 stages of friendship, and I think this is an important reminder that friendship is not something that happens to us and then just stays the same. That friendship is something that changes because they experience different stages of relationship. So in the first stage, he calls it role-limited interaction. And this is when two people make the first contact. So this is Ellen meeting Jamie at the faculty dinner. This is Dave meeting the video gamer in the dorm, right? This is that first contact. Since neither person knows how this friendship is going to end up, they're wary about revealing personal information. So this is small talk. This is, here, you want a slice of pizza? Hey, do you want to play video games? And there might just be small chit chat that's happening back and forth over dinner or over pizza and video games, right? The next stage is friendly relations. This is small talk starting and deciding if you want to be friends or not. And this is where you really get at what people are interested in, their hobbies, experiences, and to determine if your interest is reciprocal. And one of the things here is that if you know yourself, like I was talking about before, in terms of what flocks you're looking for, then some of the interests and hobbies and experiences will already be determined. And then you can see if there's anything else that you can connect about or how deeply you might connect, right? So this is certainly a time where you're starting to get friendlier and closer to that person. Bill Rollins then takes us into the third stage, which is moving toward friendship. And this is when you start spending time together voluntarily and look to expand on the friendship. And you really increase breadth and depth by talking about attitudes, values, things that are a little bit more maybe personal and that you might not share with everyone, but this is where you might be starting to build the trust and being interested in having jokes and, just all these different things that might be happening. You can talk about things that you need advice on or you're having difficulties with, and you're starting to move into that sort of feeling where there is trust and enjoyment and acceptance and things of that nature. The fourth stage, according to Bill Rollins, is the nascent friendship. And this is when the friendship and the interaction between the two people becomes so regular that whatever general standards or stereotypes are of friendship, they're eliminated, and you start focusing on you being unique individuals and unique friendship where you create your own boundary, your own rules, all that stuff. It's all your own. And so you're really like, it's going from we're friends to this is what our friendship looks like, which moves into the fifth stage, a stabilized friendship. And this is where both parties depend on the friendship and the two people count on each other automatically. I will point out again, though, that we still need to continue to maintain friendships. They trust each other, share intimate information, and expect that you'll be friends for a while. So that's something to consider, is that this is someone that wasn't temporary. This is someone that I plan to be friends with for a long time. And then Bill Rollins talks about a sixth stage called waning friendships. And this is when things start to slow down. And at the stage, something comes between the friends and it's harder to maintain than before. So it might be some level of conflict. And a lot of times people might be able to work through that, and maybe that moves back into a stabilized friendship. And in other cases, waning friendships might go away temporarily or permanently. But Bill Rollins' work, and this was found in a Gamble article that is highlighted in show notes. His work, I think, is tremendous in terms of not just understanding relationships, but understanding specifically friendships. And yes, this might mirror some of the things that we see in romantic relationships, but Bill Rollins always takes careful attention and time to be sure that we understand friendships as their own relationship and how that might be different than others. And so here we can see that we might have different stages of friends, and that if we are looking for friendship, where might we be in our friendships, and what can we do? What skill might we be able to use? What do we need to be open to? What do we need to actively do? And how can we maintain those relationships? Might be particularly important because these stages cover time. Now, it might be a short amount of time or a long period of time, and that might be up to how people communicate their interest in the friendship and how they manage it through the ups and the downs. So I have to say, I do love to hear stories of how people became friends, but I also know that I hear a lot of stories about the difficulties of friendship. And so I hope that this is a first step towards making more friends or making new friends. And so I want to ask you this, listeners. How do you make friends? What are some of the mundane or unique ways in which you've made friends before? What difficulties have you had or are you having while making friends? And what questions do you have for me related to making friends? Because I'd like to continue this conversation and talk about the different ways that it happens so that people can widen their view on making friendship. I want to talk about the difficulties people have so that we can sort of navigate those difficulties. And then I want to be sure any and all questions are answered. So feel free to hit me up on the social medias at bestforeverspod, or you can email me at bestforeverspod@gmail.com, and be sure to stay tuned for upcoming episodes about making friends. So until next time, friends, assess whether you're ready for friendship, because without our friends, who would we be? Thanks for listening to Best Forevers. If you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and of course, share with a friend. Please be sure to follow Best Forevers on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Best Forevers Pod, and I'm at Dr. Alysa Lucas on Twitter. You can always find the podcast webpage for more information at bestforeverspod.com, and share your stories of friendship by emailing me at bestforeverspod@gmail.com. And if you'd like to support the movement to love on our friends more, check out the podcast on patreon.com/bestforeverspod. Now, friends, check out this recommended podcast that you must get in your ear holes immediately.
Hi, this is Mouse.
I'm Weens.
We have the Mouse and Weens podcast. I'm the mom that lives in suburbia with 3 kids.
I'm Balone.
She's the hot Hollywood
Cat lady.
And we have a fun podcast where we talk about life, love, and
Loneliness.
pubic hair. Come on.
Sorry.
We hope you come take a listen to us. We're on all the platforms, and we will see you soon.
I have PMS.